You want an investment edge, but all you hear is noise, hype, and half-truths. Every signal is solid information, but only if you can see the bigger picture. This is where the Quasar magic happens. Weather, charts, news, all financial signals, funneled into a single dashboard. Data alone isn't enough. Quasar Markets turns it into energy, sharp, clear, precise. Optimize with Quasar Markets today, your edge when investing.
You're running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. It's me, Hondo, flying solo while BigBeat is still charming New York City and probably taxing the city's bagel supply. We've got a possible endgame on the U.S. government shutdown, a tech AI bounce attempt after last week's wobble, and a pre-market tape that looks like it drank a double espresso. Let's make sense of it and smart bets on what actually matters. I will have Mr. Flanagan in to talk about it. The first steps of his quantum convergence are starting to take place as we start to see maybe, and first we'll start there, maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? After 40 plus days, we might finally see daylight. It's like being stuck in airport security and hearing the TSA agent say next lane opening. Markets are loving what they hear so far. Senate advanced a compromise funding bill in a 60-40 procedural vote with 8 Democrats crossing over. It would fund the government into January and reinstate workers with back pay. The ACA would be enhanced credits, aren't in it, but the Republicans pledged a December vote. Still needs final Senate vote, House passage, and the president's signature, so definitely not a done deal by any means, but moving it in the right direction is what we need. Why markets care right now? Futures definitely popped on that relief. NASDAQ 100 was up about 1.48% now. S&P's minis are up, like I said, 92 basis points as of the pre-market here. I would think the policy fog lights are starting to turn on. We're not quite there yet, but we have imperfect visibility, but better than driving completely in the dark. At least they got back to the, the table, so to speak, a little bit. And good morning, Ida. It's good to see you this morning. 41-day shutdown is the longest in history, as we said. And the macro mechanics of it, I do want to just keep on reiterating something that Mr. Flanagan brought up the other day, right? Is that one thing that it does is the Treasury's general account stops hoarding cash and payments resume, which would be a reopening or a loosening of liquidity. So we've been talking about it, liquidity QT, QE. This would be QE. Because I think it's 900 billion they have right now, and that's been building up during this. So we'll see it. Is that what got crypto moving over the weekend and has the markets ready to move up so far today? We do have to keep in mind it's a volatile mix because what seems like it's moving in the correct direction today doesn't necessarily mean it is going to be moving in the correct direction tomorrow, especially if we look. One of the things that has me a little bit on edge today is correlations. Earlier, everything was up, and what I mean by everything, I mentioned the NASDAQ, I mentioned the S&P, the Dow Jones is moving up. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Gold's moving up, silver is moving up. So wait a second, what's normally a hedge versus inflation and these things, they're coming in. Oil's up. So what we're really seeing is exactly what Mr. Flanagan said. It's in crypto is up, everything is moving up together. So are rates. So the good news is that we are seeing that this release of liquidity, as Mr. Flanagan talked about, is hitting all of the markets. My little concern is that it should have these rates moving to the downside, and they're really not. So that is not my only concern, but my concern, or one thing that I'm keeping on the radar, and that you probably should also. We'll also mention that even though VIX is down about 4%, it's still at 1833, sort of the indecision zone to me, blowing way off from its highs. It almost hit that 2316 I was targeting. But this pullback nowhere near the 15 buy it again type area, but in sort of that non-directional phase. So we'll keep an eye on that. We definitely have seen more talk about the real economy frictions that have come from the shutdown, from the air travel disruptions. I'm sure some of you, hopefully none of you, were stuck in it. But I did see, on social media, lots of pictures of folks with huge TSA lines to try to get through. So hopefully that, you weren't stuck in there, and hopefully that will actually start moving in the correct area. And SNAP benefits we'll get into a little bit further down the road, because that one's even a little bit harder to get into because of the courts being involved also. Last week we got to talk about it. The Qs closed at 609.74, down from a high just, recently of 635 and change. So a pretty significant pullback that we did see. It had its worst week since April. The S&P and the Dow also bled. AI leaders were definitely the fulcrum of the losses, right? Nvidia was a bigger one again, dropped down from a high of 212.19 all the way down to 179.27, now rebounding nicely, up almost 20 points from those lows. So again, we are seeing the bounce back so far today. We saw it over the weekend on crypto. As I mentioned, Bitcoin moved up from a low just below 100K on Friday, and just recently it hit as high as 106,653. We'll again, don't want to be the dampen the good news, but the thing that you have to be aware of, again, still no real move into the spot inflows. We've seen all of this has been derivative led, and you really see it on, Bitcoin, where the 24-hour volume on futures has been 94 billion, spot volume under 7 billion. So not even at that 10%, which to me is sort of the minimum of a healthy setup for the market. Would love to see it back at the 30% we used to see. That's what really is when you see the great moves. The good takeaway, don't want to be, like I said, Debbie Downer today. Long and short ratios are getting closer to neutral, getting closer. They never will get all the way to neutral, but if they get to that like 1.68% here, we start to see on the Binance long and shorts, which is an indicator of how many people are, or how many accounts are long versus short in the perpetual future market. That's a pretty good level. So we are seeing it start to blow off that excess leverage. So question is, do we see liquidity come through on Bitcoin? We'll really be able to tell on crypto today as we watch for the inflows or outflows from the ETFs. And one day does not make a rally, but that would start to give us a direction. In other words, if we do see a sell the rip there right across the ETFs this morning, that would be a sort of negative for sure. Hey, Ron, how are you doing today, my friend? So you there? So those are the things to keep an eye on when it comes to it. We'll say that, again, also the framework of the bounce so far across equities too has been relief plus positioning. There are still some structural issues, valuations, earning momentum, AI, CapEx, math. They didn't vanish. Relief rallies can be some of the best rallies you have in the market. So keep that in mind. I'm not fading it on the stock side. I'm just telling you to take your profits, protect yourself with stop losses, trailing losses, all of those type of things, because what goes up can come down. And as I mentioned, most of this move to the upside is on the good news that we're moving forward in the government. All we need is for a couple of angry tweets to come out of either side, and that euphoria can quickly reverse, right? So I am very hopeful that we are on our way to ending the government shutdown. We need to. We need common sense. We need, we've talked about it enough, so I'm not going to. Okay, so as my daughter's favorite musician Taylor would say, markets are trying to shake it off, right? And they definitely are. Let's take a look at some of this morning's early movers. Airlines definitely have been in the news and all over it. We see UAL up about 2% today. Friday was up about 1.5, almost 1.8%. Again, as airlines start to maybe get the ability to resume all of their flights, especially moving into Thanksgiving traffic, that is definitely what has them moving up. And again, we see UAL up 1% or so. Delta Airlines, another one moving to the upside, up about 1.72% this morning, up about 1.85 again the day before. So nice move to the upside. American, same thing. So airlines definitely catching a bid today based upon that, news that hopefully government shutdown moving in the correct direction. Talked about it already earlier this morning. Nvidia moving well to the upside again, up 3.5% almost this morning. This is all about the risk on trade, and this is the AI bellwether. And it looks like we're going to get that buy the dips mentality that comes through. And tech is leading the way today. So again, every day it's a different story, I guess, within quantum convergence, because we'll stay with Mr. Flanagan's, acronym there. But it is funny because it is all about AI and tech today. It was, they were all dying on Friday. Today, they're all bouncing back nice. The entire chip sector is in the green, being led by Nvidia at 3.42%, Micron up 4% here, multiples in the 3% like AMD. Just a nice day there. All the crypto stocks that got beat up on last week, all again moving to the upside here. Coinbase putting together a nice little 2-day total, it looks like, of about a 8.5% move there to the upside. So we love to see it. We love to see it. We also got to take a look at Palantir. We know had been beaten up, right? Combination of earnings that just didn't seem to impress the street, while it impressed analysts and others. But we do see them moving back into the upside here, up about a little over 3% so far today. What else do we have on track? We've got Diageo. You don't hear that name all that often. They are the huge liquor conglomerate there. Nice move to the upside, up about 6.83% as they have announced a new CEO. Dave Lewis used to be of Tesco, the huge gas station, grocery store brand throughout Europe, is taking over to revive growth. He has big credibility, and the stocks have definitely popped on his playbook. So we'll see how that works out. That's really been beaten up, but they are the world's largest supplier of liquor. So definite nice move to the upside, up 6.83%. Visa, MasterCard have announced an agreement. They revised their swipe fee settlement. It could trim fees for consumers. It's going to be 10 basis points for 5 years. This should expand merchant flexibility. This litigation has taken almost 20 years to get through here. So we'll watch for what this does for merchant retail sentiment. I think it's more behind the scenes type thing. And neither one is really moving much on the news, but it's bigger for us, the consumer. And it's about time, after 20 years of fighting in court over this, to come together into a fee. Another one that moving to the upside today is Rumble, RUM, up 13.41% here. $100 million ad commitment from Tether. So crypto moving Rumble. And, not to say that, never mind. Two weird companies working together. They are pursuing a Northern Data deal also. And did talk about the GPU AI infra angle that they have. They are definitely high beta headline sensitive here. So if you're in this move, I would definitely be looking to take some profits. And you can see after hitting a highs of 760 earlier, it has pulled all the way back down towards the 669. So we are already seeing a sell-off there. Be careful. Another one we're going to look at is Instacart. Instacart up 5% on Friday, another 6.78%. They had a nice beat on their earnings. And then they also, CEO letter touts ads, ecosystem, AI tools, and guidance factors. Snap headwinds from the shutdown bother them, but not too badly. And again, another one that is moving up nicely on their pre-market earnings. We're 10 minutes from the open here. Tick is up slightly. Advanced decline is up at 33.11. Again, for those that don't know, advanced decline measures the amount of stocks trading in the U.S. currently, and at the open, cash open, this will move up or down. With another group of stocks will be added in, as there is a large swath of stocks that do not trade in the pre or post market trading hours. When those kick off, though, this does measure the amount of stocks that are either in the green or the red for the day, and gives you a total. So it adds up how many are green, how many are red, subtracts the red from the green, gives you a number. We are positive about 3,300 right now, so a nice move to the upside here. Mentioned Mr. Flanagan will be in soon to talk to us. DXY at 99.56. So it did have a nice healthy pullback, as he had mentioned he expected to see from that high of 126 last week, but still right around the zones he talked about. NASDAQ set to open, or the Qs set to open, up about 1.52%. You can see in the bottom right-hand side that they have been just ranging up and down across VWAP here for most of the morning since about 6 a.m. So no clear direction yet as to whether, and if I had to guess, it's the unease on whether people really believe we are moving forward with our, with the end of the shutdown or not. So, sort of waiting for that. We're going to take a quick 30-second commercial here while I get a quick sip of water and reset my stuff.
You want an investment edge, but all you hear is noise, hype, and half-truths. Every signal is solid information, but only if you can see the bigger picture. This is where the Quasar magic happens. Weather, charts, news, all financial signals funneled into a single dashboard. Data alone isn't enough. Quasar Markets turns it into energy, sharp, clear, precise. Optimize with Quasar Markets today. Your edge when investing.
Okay, I'm back. Ron asked, what symbol do I use for that? Ron, I'll type it into the banners here, but I use ADVDEC.US. So that it covers all of the markets. That's the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, the American Exchange, and I'm not sure what else they include in there, if they do Texas, the new ones, or not. Okay, getting back into stocks, leading the way, or news stories we have to hit on right here today is Metsera, MTSR, not to be confused with MicroStrategy, but MTSR is going to be purchased from Pfizer for $10 billion. Novo Nordisk did drop out of the running here. It does have them down about 14.79%. You might say to yourself, Why the heck are they down that much? There was a lot of, speculation that there would be, a bidding war and it would continue to go and that they would get well above that $10 billion mark. Not doing that means it's over. It comes in at 86.25 a share, but it's a combination of cash and credit vouchers, CVRs. Novo walked away, and investors read as Pfizer paying up a little too much, it looks like, because Pfizer was, let's see if they still are, pretty flat on the news, up about 1%. So they are up slightly on it. And, that will trade back towards its deal math over the coming, periods there. But keep in mind that has been settled and, continues to be moving that way. We also see satellites VSAT, which is Viasat, up about 16% here this morning. That's after a narrower than expected loss and a Raymond James upgrade. Satcom pivot continues here when it comes to those low orbit satellites there. So definitely interesting for sure. We are 5 minutes from the open so far. Let's take a look again. Mag 7 so far. NVIDIA set to open up about 3.5% at 194.88. Apple trying to reverse Friday's losses, where it was down a half a percentage point, up 44 basis points here this morning. Microsoft, which traded slightly down on its Friday trading period, up again about 92 basis points. Another one of the bigger winners is Google, up over 2% here this morning. They did emphasize their cost control and efficiency in their recent earnings call, and that they were cutting down a little bit on their heavy spending in contrast with what we had seen from Meta and some of the others. Amazon nicely up 1.6% here. They did have an up day on Friday, was up a half a percentage point there. It does look like it's trying to break out to the upside, as they all do here. So again, don't see any new news doing this. I was trying to see if there was something that was spiking there, but not seeing anything necessarily. Tesla up about 2.29% here. Their sales in China did fall about 35% year over year to 26,000 vehicles, the lowest monthly total in 3 years, down from 71,000 units that they had sold in September. So again, Tesla continuing to get hit. And Netflix pretty flat on the day, up about 1 percentage point if you take Friday and today's pre-market into account. If we go to the different indices again, gold has regained that $4,000 handle, got as high as 4,100 before pulling back here, but does seem to be trying to hold above the 4,000 level. Both the S&P and the Qs look to open on the upside. The S&P up about 1 percentage point, the NASDAQ up about 1.5%. Nice little move up in the oil markets also. Brent back above 63 and WTI trying to break back above 60. It really needs to get above 60 for those drillers to want to continue to drill. Spoke about it earlier. The treasuries are still, they're sliding down this morning, but still elevated above 4.1 in my opinion, and up about 46 basis points versus 24 hours ago. And we see similarly the other treasuries also sliding to the upside here. For the sectors of the S&P that are slated to open in the green versus the red, again, I look at the Spider Select funds to take a look at this. So far, the majority of them set to open in the green. Real estate sector set to open up neutral, XLRE, XLV, which is the healthcare sector. And again, part of that loss is within, that merger and acquisition deal. XLV healthcare set to open up down about 0.25 percentage point. And XLP, which is consumer staples, also set to open down about a quarter percentage point. Biggest winning sector so far is, folks, as we said, jumping into tech, up 1.86%. And then we also see XLY, which is consumer discretionary sector, up about 1 percentage point here so far in pre-market trading. We have 1 minute till the open here. We'll point out that world markets were up again on the news of the U.S. government shutdown, maybe moving in the right direction. We see the Japanese Nikkei up about a full percentage point. We see Hong Kong's index, the Hang Seng, up 1.55%, and the stocks over in Europe up 1.5% also. So nice move there. We are about to hit the open here. We are open. First moves on the queue are bouncing up off of VWAP here, 61880 or so. Oh, there now the quants are moving it to the downside. Let's see what we get overall. Tick is slightly negative here, but not too bad. Advanced decline across the US is just above 40.50. So that's where we started out. We do see first move in gold to the upside. Well, actually, no, pretty muted on gold. Bitcoin at 106, 159, still continuing to slide slightly to the downside. Ethereum's regained 3,600. Good to see that there. Take a look at some of the other morning movers. A lot of Chinese names were up early in the pre-market. Baidu up 3.64%. Baba up almost a percentage point here. Constellation Energy up 2.7%. I mentioned Coinbase having a strong day, up about 3.54%, but you can see pulling back a little profit taking there right on the bat. Costco actually at 918 here starts to be interesting to me. One I'm going to take a look at here today for sure. Hasn't caught much wind yet, and I definitely like it. They do have earnings, I will point out, coming up on December 11th ahead of us. Tick's gone slightly negative here. Q's up 1.63%. So technology, it looks like moving to the upside. Nice move. NVIDIA is back up above 194 here, trying to move back to the upside. Apple, nice little candle to the upside here on the 3-minute chart, up 83 basis points. Microsoft up 76 basis points, trying to come off the lows of the day. Google is seeing a little bit of a sell-off. It was up over 2%, now only up 1.5%. Amazon has moved up here in the morning, trading 2.11 to the upside. Meta has been moving to the downside so far. Tesla, nice little jump to the upside, but it's being sold off pretty quickly there. Netflix, nice jump to the upside here. So it had been the laggard, now up 1%. We do see advanced declines, while not at the highs of the day, which was 43.30, still moving very positively here and still up almost 4,200 at 41.89. Dow Jones up half a percentage point at 48 basis points, but off of its highs of the day. The SPY is up 1 percentage point, but again, just moving off of its highs of the day. Q is almost right at highs of the day here, up 1.65%. So nice move to the upside there. Sorry, just taking a look here. Nice moves to the upside. Some sell off there. Some of them are getting sold off. Robinhood, nice move to the upside here. Real nice move to the upside. Q still moving the upside. 620 here. Gold continuing to slide slightly here. Okay, sorry there. Gold continuing to pull back a little bit. Bitcoin back below 106 here, so definitely pulling back. As I said, the structure there was all perp futures. Break here below 105.5 would be rather negative. Got to hold above that 105.5 area. Tick still positive 139 here and has remained positive most of the day. 42.37 on advanced decline on the upside. We do see the Dow Jones now breaking up towards its high of the day, up 63 basis points. Same thing, SPY at its high of the day here. And the Q's breaking away also. There you go. The Q's nicely breaking away to the upside here. So, like I said, does look like we want to run here. Does look like we want to run. Q's hitting a little bit of a struggle here. Definitely still seeing some strength throughout it coming through. Do want to say next steps we should be watching for to see if the government's going to shut down or end the shutdown would be to see if we get a final Senate vote. How does it do there? Then it needs to move to the House where it can be a little bit more contentious. Got to get through there and then signature of the president. You know, the market will trade every headline. So again, as long as it remains positive, I just realized I need my tweet deck up here, which I do not have. See if there's anything crazy they got to look at. Not really so far. Q's 620.15, so pulling off those highs, 620.38. Got room though right up to 625.45. Viasat now up 19.9%. So definitely breaking out here. Viasat, one of the ones we talked about in the morning pre-market watch list here, moving well to the upside. Wow, just that's a squeeze right there. Definitely not following that, but man, that's a move. Rumble up 13.58, like we said. Sunrun, nice little move to the upside here. Up about 9% here this morning. Tick still positive. Dow Jones right about highs of the day. SPY at highs of the day. Q's at highs of the day. So far, everything saying, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's see what we get here. A little nervous that Bitcoin's not doing it with it. Is this a predecessor of what we see? Remember, Bitcoin's been trading throughout the weekend when the stock market hasn't. So it traded all last night on Senate News. Are we seeing this as a predecessor to what we see this afternoon in the NASDAQ is a question. But again, the difference level is all this is perpetual futures. It's all liquidations here. And you got to still fade those rips is still the way to go until spot volume comes back at least to 10%, but needs more. Here we go to the downside again. If we break below that 105.5, and it just did for a second. Wow, that flash crashed down to 105.350 there. Quickly regained 105.6, but that was that had to have been a huge liquidation if I had to guess here. Take a look at that. Just going down another $300 million in liquidations in the last 24 hours. We had seen 200 million of those were shorts that got hit on the way up. We now see just in the last hour here, 11 million of longs getting liquidated. And again, this is why we're not going up, is because there's enough money to be made within this little speculation that's keeping people happy. And we need that spot volume to come back in here. Stock market, on the other hand, Q's trying to go to highs of the day again, up 1.82 here. So definite loving this move to the upside. I think you've still got room up towards 625.59 when it comes to the Q's here. So that's the level I would be targeting. On the SPY, similar thing. You're about to hit some resistance. You got to clear 681 here. You clear 681, you've probably got to run back up towards its all-time high here. So markets do look like they want to continue to run to the upside. We've talked about it. Liquidity does, follow good news, and this would be a big increase in liquidity, without a doubt. So we are going to take a 30-second commercial here while I can get myself set up. Risk on, says Mr. Flanagan. Whenever you're ready, come on over, Mr. Flanagan. We'll talk about it. But I'm with you, but it's got to be fragile right now. Got to be fragile until we get more news and the Senate and the House move it along. But I'm loving it so far, without a doubt.
You want an investment edge, but all you hear is noise, hype, and half-truths. Every signal is solid information, but only if you can see the bigger picture. This is where the Quasar magic happens. Weather, charts, news, all financial signals funneled into a single dashboard. Data alone isn't enough. Quasar Markets turns it into energy, sharp, clear, precise. Optimize with Quasar Markets today. Your edge when investing.
Okay, we are back. Q's up 1.8%, just broke above 620 here. So trying to get up to 621. Again, I've targeted that 625 area as the key resistance to watch ahead of us, but really nice move to the upside so far. Dow Jones not up quite as much, up about 60 basis points, and the SPY S&P up about 1.14. Have seen a little bit of a profit taken here in the last minute or so. If we break down the different sectors, we do see energy has gone negative here, now down about 77 basis points. Material sector flat on the day now. Consumer staples still in the negative. And we do see real estate is now down about 45 basis points, and it's moved to the downside. Big winner still technology, now up over 2%. And a lot of that led by the MAG, especially led by both NVIDIA up 3.66% and 3.7% and moving to the upside back now. It's regained 195 here. So NVIDIA just absolutely taken off. Same thing with Google up 3%. Amazon up 2.65%, Tesla up 2%. So we do see animal spirits are taking wind here and are definitely moving it up. And so far, no tweet analysis out of the White House to deal with. We do see a little things coming out of the UK, but not much here so far out of the US. That's what we want. Let's keep it nice and quiet out of the White House today. Tick up about 40 here. Advanced decline has come down off of those highs. We do know it was up around 43, 30 to the upside, now down below 34,000 at the 39 level. Here, DXY is moving back to the upside here since the cash market opened back above 99.6. As I mentioned, we'll have Mr. Flanagan in to break that down for us. VIX is cooling off too, so the VIX is telling us the market thinks that this, move to end the government shutdown could be for real. That's down to 1797, although I would say if it fully trusted it, it would be down towards the 16 level. So it means that, in my opinion, we're still, like I said, we're moving out of the woods, but we're not there yet. We haven't seen the light at the end of the tunnel, but it is starting to shine into the woods. Gold at 40.83. So again, nicely holding up here this morning. Silver up about 3% back above, trying to break back above 50. Copper up 1.53 at about 31 in change here. Bitcoin back below 106 here and continuing to move to the downside. I mentioned key support I'm watching is 105,500. Break below that definitely opens up room, and there it goes to the downside towards that 104, 103 area. Wow, that's a quick move to the downside here on crypto. And like I said, I don't really look at it as much today as a predecessor into what we might see across the stock market, because most of yesterday's move to the upside and this morning's really was a short squeeze across the futures, not spot market led. So it's sort of the same thing when you're watching zero DTEs on a volatile Friday. I do see Mr. Flanagan has come in to help bail me out since I'm solo today. Let's get him in here. Mr. Flanagan, how was your weekend, my friend?
Weekend was fine. Florida weather's cooling off a little bit up here in the northern part of Florida, but been a great weekend. I was so happy to see that the Senate finally got some more moderate people involved, and on a 60-40 vote, now brings it to the Senate floor. We still have many hurdles to go, because at any point in time, somebody can get up and start bloviating and make this talk another 6 to 12 hours and suddenly bring it into Tuesday and then Wednesday. Then it goes to the House and they could do the same thing. Look, the important thing is that I think both sides of the aisle are realizing the political impact that this is going to have on their careers, as more people I met with over this weekend, more of that younger crowd just, basically says, I don't get it. What are these people doing?
Yeah.
And it's not a Republican Democrat thing.
They're all done with it, right? Well, and that's why you end up with the person who's elected up in New York, and then you get swings to the other. What we need is some sort of moderate group to come out and those folks to take control, which we can hope for.
Yeah, and that's what I really hope for. And I think that there's a lot to be. Why are markets bouncing? Let's look at that. The government shutdown has cost, as we've been talking about, the over $700 billion have been drained from the financial system in a very relative short period of time. What has that
Yep.
had? It squeezed bank reserves. It has caused all sorts of stress in the repo market. And, it's always good when you go through a point in time like this. And, to the viewers, this is a historic point in time. Why? Because we've never closed the government for this long, over 40 days. So
Yep.
this is historic. What is the aftermath? We don't know because we've never seen it before.
Yeah.
You can speculate, and it should be, as I said, think about a pool above us and we're all below it. And the pool, somebody put the plug in it, and all the water is captured in the pool, and the pool is now filled with probably in excess of $1 trillion,
Right.
which is the Treasury General Accounting. And suddenly someone says, oh, pull that plug. And here we are down below. Guess what? Whoosh. And that's the effect it's going to have on the marketplace. Today, everybody's beginning to jostle, going, wow, what's this going to mean? Look at crypto. I mean, you almost couldn't even get into that trade on Saturday. It started moving.
Yep. No, absolutely. It is cooling off now, though, which there's a different structure. Like I said, there's some structural problems there between the futures and the future and spot that need to work their way out. Steve, DXY, that's your neck of the woods there, 99.63 here. It has been moving up since we started here this morning. What are you seeing here over the weekend, and what are you looking for?
So we closed at 99.56. Put the point in the chart right there. That's the support point. Now let's see just how much this good news is. We're at 99, like 60 right now. I do see a sideways type trading pattern after we put a new high in. The pattern is broken. We're trading higher, but we've got to look for where the support point comes in, because I think 98.30 to 99.20 below us is support. I'm being a little bit patient here. I've trimmed my dollar longs. I'm still long, but I'm waiting to let the price action tell me, do I add? I kind of think we're in a sideways move here. Looking down the line at currencies, the euro 115.60. Last week's close was right here on this level. So I see resistance on the top side. The European present, economic numbers have been improving, but the general expectation numbers are still in the deep tank. So I'm not liking the euro so much. They're kind of saying 2% interest rates is where we're comfortable. But as inflation comes down and growth is anemic, I'm looking for the Europeans to cut rates further. The big one I focus is sterling. And that, with the budget getting announced within the next week and a half, they're going to call for tax increases, and it's not going to be taken very well. Presently, 131.60-ish. Last week's close right on this level as well. Resistance is 132.20, and I look to sell any bounce in the sterling. And the yen, a little political news overnight. The economic advisor to the new prime minister, Takeichi, came out and said, hey, I don't think that the Bank of Japan should risk raising rates in December. So that's thrown a little bit of a bone in the mix here. And dollar yen trading up to 154.08, substantially above last week's close of 153.41. Watch the yen. The yen is the leader here, and that could be the one that says the dollar sideways finding its support point. It might be short-lived before another upsurge here. I am targeting 102 to 103 in the dollar index, and I'm watching that carefully. And just so I bring it around, the Canadian dollar, a resurgence of strength based on last week's unemployment number, which suddenly had the unemployment dropping to 5.7%, a sharp drop. And that's good news for Canada. I don't think it's going to last. I think that there are probably some anomalies to that number, but that's the world of currencies. The dollar does look good. Watch it here. I do believe we'll see a little bit of a sideways trade. I am looking to buy the dip in the dollar index.
Okay, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think you nailed a lot of the good points there across, what is coming up. We come into the holiday period pretty soon there. Does that slow down across everywhere?
Well, now these are the wild cards that, you've got to, and to the viewers, watch the price action, because the price action will tell us what is going to happen here. And when you, again, with that pool with a plug in it above our heads and all that liquidity yet to be released, this could be a blowout, December market here. As everybody, think about people who have been furloughed and have not been paid in 5 weeks, suddenly getting back pay. There's a lot of resources and a lot of spending power that suddenly falls into a lot of people's laps. So I'm not really going out on a limb, but I do think that the surge of liquidity is going to be a boom for the remaining market. Here we are moving into the half point of November very shortly, and you've got a month and a half left before year end. It could be gangbusters to the upside. That's kind of my take right now, and that's what I'm looking at. Again, I talked about a quantum convergence. There's so many factors that are moving in. I'm working on my paper that I hope to bring to Quasar Markets first and publish right here, which is kind of just talking about all these elements that are forming the foundation to a blow-off in 2026. Now, I think 2026 will start off quite volatile, but with all the money that's pledged into the U.S., with all the manufacturing that's beginning to churn, and I'll look at what Fed Governor Daley said today, Mary Daley said, and this was very important to me, another piece to the puzzle. We need to keep an open mind about further rate cuts. Okay, all right, that's a general comment. I think we all could say that. But then she dove into what she was talking about. Guard against inflation risks. Yes, we do. We have to be careful, but should not ignore the possibility of the productivity boom that we're entering. Faster non-inflationary growth. This is at the core of, I believe, what's going to happen. And when that happens, you've got a restrictive Fed that's got to reduce rates. And you could be looking at GDP growth in excess of 4%, which is what the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is constantly reminding everybody of where their targets are.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We definitely seems to be moving in the right direction. Everything government shutdown, no explosive tweets yet this morning coming out of anywhere, so that keeps us happy. Tick is still slightly positive here, up 65. Hughes trying to move back towards the highs of the day. So after seeing a little bit of sell-off here across some of the profit taking, it looks like we are moving back up to the upside. The RUT up about 1 percentage point, NASDAQ up 1.9, SPY 1.16. Dow Jones, today's laggard, up 41 basis points. All of the Mag 7 leading the way. Although we got a new leader in the clubhouse, Google now up 3.58%, surpassing NVIDIA's move to the upside there at 3.6%, but all of them up more than 1 percentage point. If we look at the different indices across the S&P, we still see consumer staples to the downside, energy to the downside, which is funny on a day where we see snow across. And by the way, I let that go earlier. Yeah, nice talk about your weather. I'm looking at a couple inches of snow out my back door today. So I know you miss those days, right, Steve? And
I do, and I am heading north at the end of the week, so I'll miss Friday's show, but I am heading up to the mountains, and
There you go, hitting the Catskills.
I'm not looking forward to snow.
Yeah, you're going to get it. And real estate down about 27 basis points here. So, in general, we're seeing a nice move to the upside at technology. XLK now up 2.28%. So continuing to fly to the upside. I do think Q's are going to have resistance in that 625 area like I spoke about. That's where I'd be watching there. Gold holding up over 4,000. Bitcoin trying to regain 105 here, but it's much weaker than the others. Chip sector definitely leading the way. Also, we see AMD, Micron up 7%, AMD up 5.5%. We are starting to see some red across some of the different indices and some of the different players. Banks moving, financials to the upside outside of Wells Fargo. Nice little move up by Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs, both up 1.3% here this morning. Steve, what else are you watching for this week?
Well, Howard, I 43 plus years trading in an institution, number one, I got to tell you, and just for the viewers' sake, I sat there past Friday, very nervous, actually sold quite a few things off in my equity portfolio because I have to admit, the uncertainty and the feeling, the price action was telling me, bail, it's time to get cash. And of course, in typical fashion, when I do those things, it's always a dead low or a dead high. But just to, with all my experience, I also felt.
Well, but Steve, I think that's a great segue for us because I do think it's important to realize that this jump isn't, going to be a straight line. And we see some of the best relief rallies during a bear market that quickly can retrace, like we're seeing in crypto right now, and sometimes crypto is the canary in the birdhouse. Did we already see the run? Because it traded last night and it traded as soon as the news broke yesterday. Are we seeing it fade off here? As we know, as retail is now realizing what you've already been talking about, that this isn't just going to be, hey, we've settled the deal, let's go. And they sign, the Senate votes, and that's an easy deal, and that's done. And then the House says, okay, we're coming back to work. And remember, they're all across the country right now, not even in D.C. So the FAA will have some say on who and when they get back. I did see and thought it was funny that when they were waiting for the senator from Maine to get back, the person was delayed by like 2.5 hours because of the FAA. So, there's that there. So I do think we're going to see hiccups. So I think it's important. Take profit, be careful. As you said, hey, it's okay to miss a couple of points here and there too, right? You rather protect and have risk management. That's what I would say is you weren't brought up to be a trader. You were brought up to be a risk management expert, right? Wouldn't that be more in line what you did over the years? And what you did was proper risk management. We were coming into an uncertain weekend where it didn't seem like we would get forward action. We got some forward action, but I would warn as a, longtime DC person that this is just the first inning. We had a good opening drive, but the defense is now recouping. Especially since most of the rhetoric is the Democrats got nothing out of this. So once that starts to take a little bit more hold, I was hoping to see, this was a good compromise and all that. But what we're seeing more out of mainstream media is coverage of this is a W for the Republicans. And once that starts to hit the news, it throws wrenches in.
Yeah, and on that line right there, so you can imagine the bloviating from Bernie Sanders in the Senate and AOC in the House as a result of this. So you're absolutely right in drawing caution that it's not a clean path to getting this done. But this is a positive.
Right. We got off the start line. Someone shot the gun up at least. So that, you know what I mean? And now they're running. I'm with you. I'm also trying to explain some of the, what I'm seeing across the markets too, is that we will see breadth of move. It will be, it will be some volatility both ways, be prepared for it, get your stop losses, your take profits and things like that ready, because you don't want to miss that rip, but that rip could also sell off pretty quickly if the president says, I'm not signing anything. You know,
Totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. The only thing that I pick up on is the sudden change. At you know, I think that somebody talked to our political leaders on both sides because Schumer was in the meeting. And I think somebody has laid out a picture of the worsening situation.
absolutely. That's what we
And
can only hope for.
I think that, politics aside, I think that cooler heads have prevailed, saying enough is enough. The point was made. Time to move on. Let's see. Again, in a room that's totally dark, you throw a dart, you're always going to hit a negative balloon. They're all over the place. Everything, no matter what, you look at and listen to, everything paints a horrible picture, gloom and doom. So I'm always the glass is half full approach. And, I turn on the lights and I suddenly see a positive. And I think you could end up with a herd mentality that is desperate to grip and hold on to some positive news here. So, yeah, let's sit back, be careful, be patient, and be very prudent with your risk management. If you're reaching in and getting long, have a very, a well-known stop loss and be very disciplined about that stop loss. But let the price action tell you, look for where the upside breaks are. This
Absolutely.
is a market that will move very fast. And
Yeah, we've seen that already, right? It can move 2%, 3% in a direction in a matter of minutes, and that's going to be the case. And we know that money always moves first with Mr. Flanagan. So for here from Quasar Markets, everybody, Big Beat will be back tomorrow, and Mr. Flanagan will be back on Wednesday. We'll let those two fight it out. I will moderate and make sure everybody's plays nice. We'll see you all in the morning, and again, have a great day, Quasar Markets.